February 8th, 2024, 3:47 a.m. Rue Laurier-Est, Montreal's Plateau Montreal borough. Jean-François Tremblay guides his yellow Volvo grader through the third hour of his shift, its 12-foot blade carving a clean path through 14 inches of fresh powder. His dashboard glows with the usual instruments: fuel gauge, hydraulic pressure, engine temperature. But there's something else. A small GPS unit, transmitting his exact location every 30 seconds to a server downtown. 15 blocks away, Amélie Chen sits at her kitchen table, coffee cooling beside her laptop. She's not checking email or scrolling social media. She's watching a digital map of her neighborhood, tracking Jean-François' plow, represented by a small orange icon, as it methodically works its way toward her street. The estimated arrival time updates in real time: 47 minutes. She closes her laptop, sets her alarm, and goes back to bed. When the scraping sound of the blade finally reaches her block at 4:34 a.m., she's already moved her car to the opposite side of the street, avoiding the $62 parking ticket that would have greeted her at dawn. This is Montreal's Info-Neige system, a live public map showing every snowplow in the city's 3,200-vehicle winter fleet. Real-time tracking of snow loading operations, street-by-street status updates, parking restriction alerts tied directly to plow locations. It sounds unremarkable in an age where we track pizza deliveries and Uber drivers. But in the context of municipal snow removal, an operation that consumes nearly $200 million of Montreal's annual budget and touches every resident's daily life for 5 months each year, it represents something more significant than mere technological convenience. It represents the transformation of the most opaque, frustrating, and politically charged aspect of urban governance into something approaching transparency. Montreal receives an average of 210 centimeters of snow annually. That's 7 feet. More than any major city in North America except Quebec City. The snow starts falling in November and doesn't stop until April. Some winters dump 3 meters. The city's 4,100 kilometers of streets, enough roadway to stretch from Montreal to Los Angeles, must be cleared, then cleared again, then cleared a third time before the same storm system finishes. This isn't Ottawa's dry powder or Toronto's manageable accumulations. Montreal's snow is wet, heavy, compacted by the freeze-thaw cycles that define the St. Lawrence Valley's microclimate. A single storm can drop enough frozen precipitation to fill the Olympic Stadium 3 times over. If left on the streets, it compresses into glacial ridges that narrow traffic lanes, hide curbs, and persist until May. The city deploys those 3,200 vehicles in carefully choreographed waves. First come the graders, scraping the initial layer. Then the sidewalk plows, the smaller tactical units for narrow streets, the salt spreaders. Finally, and this is what makes Montreal's operation unique in North America, the loading crews. Massive blowers that vacuum the snow into dump trucks, which then haul it to designated snow dumps across the island. The entire cycle can take 72 hours for a major storm, sometimes longer. For decades, residents had no idea where in that 72-hour cycle their street existed. You'd wake to find your car buried, ticketed, or towed. Parking restrictions appeared on temporary signs that few people noticed until enforcement officers arrived. The snow removal schedule was a mystery known only to borough managers and plow dispatchers. Citizens called 311 for updates and received vague assurances. Your sector is scheduled for loading operations soon. Soon could mean 4 hours. It could mean 2 days. The frustration wasn't just about parking tickets. It was about the fundamental opacity of a municipal service that affected every aspect of winter life. Can I leave my car on the street tonight? Should I work from home tomorrow because my street will be impassable? Is the city even plowing my neighborhood, or have they forgotten us again? Before Info-Neige, you simply didn't know. The technology to track snowplows existed long before Montreal implemented it. GPS became commercially viable in the 1990s. Fleet management systems proliferated across private logistics companies. UPS tracked every brown van. FedEx monitored package routes in real time. But municipal snow removal operations remained stubbornly analog. The reason wasn't technical capacity. It was institutional culture. Cities managed snow removal like military operations. Centralized command, hierarchical decision-making, information flowing upward from field crews to dispatchers to borough managers. Citizens occupied the bottom of that hierarchy. They received service, but had no window into its delivery. The system worked, after a fashion. Streets got cleared. But the process remained opaque, generating thousands of complaints every winter. Montreal received approximately 45,000 snow-related calls to 311 each season. Most asked simple questions. When will my street be plowed? Where is the nearest snow dump? Why was I ticketed when I saw no signs? The call center couldn't answer with specificity because the information didn't exist in accessible form. Dispatch knew which crews operated in which sectors, but exact locations and timing remained approximate. Some borough managers defended the opacity. Giving residents real-time information, they argued, would generate more complaints, not fewer. People would call to demand priority service for their street. The system worked better, they believed, when citizens simply trusted the expertise of snow removal professionals. That argument held until smartphones became ubiquitous. By 2015, residents tracked buses, taxis, food deliveries and packages with casual precision. The expectation of real-time information had become normalized. The gap between what technology enabled and what municipal governments provided grew increasingly difficult to justify. Snow removal remained the last major public service operating in the dark. Pressure mounted from city councillors fielding constituent complaints, then from Mayor Denis Coderre's administration, which sought to modernize city services and reduce 311 call volume. The technical infrastructure already existed. Plows had been equipped with GPS units for internal fleet management since 2012. The question wasn't whether the city could track its vehicles. It was whether they would share that information publicly. Info-Neige launched in November 2018, not with fanfare or press conferences, but as a quiet beta test in 3 boroughs. The web interface was simple, a Google Maps overlay showing plow locations as colored icons, updated every 30 seconds. Streets displayed status indicators, not yet cleared, clearing in progress, cleared within 8 hours, snow removal complete. Usage exploded beyond initial projections. Within 2 weeks, the system logged 2.3 million page views. Residents bookmarked the map, checked it multiple times daily, shared screenshots on social media showing plows approaching their streets. The city expanded the program island-wide by January 2019. The technical architecture is straightforward. Each plow, loader and blower carries a GPS transponder communicating with a central server via cellular network. The server processes location data, cross-references it with the city's street grid database, and updates street status in real time. A web interface and mobile app display this information on an interactive map. Color coding indicates operational status: gray for untreated streets, blue for plowing in progress, green for recently cleared. But the system provides more than vehicle locations. It integrates parking restriction data, automatically posting alerts when snow removal operations trigger temporary parking bans. It shows the locations of all 34 snow disposal sites across Montreal, their operating hours, and current capacity. It provides estimated arrival times for plows approaching specific streets, calculated from current position and average operating speed. The data is granular enough to track individual vehicles, but aggregated to show borough-wide progress. You can zoom out to see the entire island's snow removal status, or zoom in to watch a specific grader work its way down your block. Transparency emerged not from policy mandates or regulatory requirements. It came from the simple act of making operational data public. Within the first full winter of operation, Montreal's 311 call center reported a 35% reduction in snow-related inquiries. Not because service improved, the same number of plows cleared the same streets on the same schedule, but because residents could answer their own questions. When will my street be plowed? Check the map. Where should I move my car? Check the parking restrictions tied to your address. The system changed citizen behavior in unexpected ways. Complaints about delayed snow removal decreased even when delays occurred, because residents could see why. The map showed which streets received priority clearing, arterial routes first, residential streets second, making the logic of snow removal operations visible. Understanding bred patience. It also created accountability. When a borough manager claimed a sector had been fully cleared, residents could verify that claim against the map data. Discrepancies became public. Social media posts comparing Info-Neige data to actual street conditions prompted faster responses from borough offices. Transparency forced performance. The technology revealed operational inefficiencies invisible to managers. GPS data showed plows making redundant passes, crews overlapping coverage zones, vehicles sitting idle. Dispatchers optimized routes based on actual movement patterns rather than theoretical planning. The same number of vehicles cleared more streets in less time. But perhaps most significantly, Info-Neige shifted the relationship between municipal government and citizens. Snow removal had always been something done to residents, a service delivered from above, accepted with varying degrees of satisfaction or frustration. The tracking system made it something residents participated in, monitoring operations, adjusting behavior based on real-time information, feeling included in the process even as passive observers. This is the real innovation. Not the GPS technology, which is decades old, not the web interface, which is unremarkable by contemporary standards, but the willingness to make operational data public, transforming the most opaque aspect of winter urban life into a shared, observable process. Other Canadian cities watched Montreal's experiment. By 2020, Toronto had launched its own plow tracking system, then Ottawa, Edmonton, Calgary. American cities followed: Boston, Minneapolis, Milwaukee. The technology transferred easily. The political will to implement it, less so. Some municipalities worried about exposing operational inefficiencies. Others faced pushback from unions concerned about worker surveillance. Several city managers argued that real-time tracking would generate impossible service expectations. If residents could see plows 2 blocks away, why wouldn't they demand immediate service? Montreal's experience suggested otherwise. Transparency didn't eliminate complaints, it contextualized them. Residents stopped calling to ask where plows were and started calling to report problems. Streets missed by crews, equipment malfunctions, genuine service failures. The nature of citizen engagement shifted from information seeking to quality control. The system cost approximately $2.8 million to implement across Montreal's entire fleet. Annual operating costs run about $400,000, covering server maintenance, cellular data plans for GPS units, and software updates. Against a $200 million snow removal budget, these figures are negligible. The reduction in 311 call volume alone, estimated at 15,000 fewer calls annually, saves approximately $300,000 in customer service costs. But the value extends beyond cost savings. Info-Neige represents a model for how cities can use existing technology to fundamentally alter the relationship between government operations and citizen expectations. The same principles apply to garbage collection, street repairs, public transit, building inspections, any municipal service where timing and location matter. Montreal didn't invent GPS tracking. It didn't pioneer mobile apps or interactive maps. What it did was recognize that transparency in municipal operations isn't a technical challenge. It's a choice. Jean-François Tremblay knows residents are watching. Not watching him personally, the system anonymizes driver identities, but watching the orange icon representing his plow. He finds it oddly motivating. For years, snow removal felt like invisible work. You cleared streets at 3 a.m. when nobody was watching, left before dawn, and heard about your performance only when complaints filtered back through management. Now he imagines Amélie Chen and thousands like her tracking his progress, moving cars ahead of his arrival, understanding that he's not neglecting their street, but working through a systematic grid that will reach them eventually. The work hasn't changed. The visibility has. It's 6:15 a.m. when he finishes his assigned sector. The plow bay is warm, smelling of diesel and hydraulic fluid. He downloads his shift data to the fleet management system. 127 kilometers covered, 38 streets cleared. Somewhere in the city's server, that data becomes a green indicator on hundreds of residential maps. informing residents that their streets are clear, their cars are safe, their morning commute is possible. In an age of ubiquitous surveillance and data extraction, Info-Neige represents something different. Not corporate tracking for profit optimization or government monitoring for control, but municipal service made visible for public benefit. The same technology that enables Amazon to predict your purchases before you make them, here redirected toward the simpler goal of helping people park their cars during snowstorms. The transformation is modest: a map, some colored icons, real-time updates. But modest transformations in civic infrastructure often prove more durable than revolutionary ones. Montreal residents no longer ask whether they can track snow removal. They ask why they can't track other city services the same way. The answer, increasingly, is that they can. Because once citizens experience transparency in one municipal operation, opacity in others becomes harder to justify. The orange icon moving across digital maps represents more than a snowplow's position. It represents the slow, unglamorous evolution of urban governance towards something more observable, more accountable, more participatory. One GPS unit at a time.